Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Resources for Collecting Data and Reporting for the PPR. Where do I start? This is the second of two webinars reviewing the Performance Progress Report, or PPR. This is one of the main reports you'll send to the Office of Community Services, or OCS, who administers your grant. My name is Nicole Hassman, and I work for ICF, a contractor who supports OCS and its grantees. I would like to introduce Gerald Shanklin, an OCS program specialist, for opening remarks.
And Gerald, if you're talking, you might be on mute. Gerald, can you hear us?
I'll move on with the opening, and then once we get Gerald's line back, he can jump in. So today's session will direct you to resources for understanding what data is collected, how the PPR is used, and how to set up the data collection process. This session will instruct you on where to find resources, step-by-step instructions, videos, FAQs, and other guidance to help you navigate the online data collection system, or OLDC, to submit a high-quality PPR. This session will introduce the data collection tool, an Excel-based tool designed to assist you with collecting the data needed to complete the PPR. The session is recommended for new grantees and staff to the PPR process and will be a good introduction to data collection and PPR resources available. Last week's session provided an overview of the PPR and its requirements, so if you missed that session, we'll have a recording available soon. This webinar is also being recorded, and information about where to access the recording will be sent to you when it becomes available.
Nicole, I'm on now. I'm sorry.
No problem. Welcome, Gerald.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today on today's webinar. Welcome back to all those who've attended last week's call, and welcome to any new participants. I look forward to working with you all before this time around as a program specialist, so I'm just excited that you're all on this call. So today's session will direct you to the resources I'm sure Nicole has already told you about for understanding what data is to be collected, how the PPR is going to be used, and how to set up the data collection processes. This session instructs you on where to find the resources, the step-by-step instructions, videos, frequently asked questions, and other guidance to help you navigate the online data collection system, which we all call here the OLDC, so that you can submit high-quality PPRs. And this session will introduce the data collection tool and Excel, which is an Excel spreadsheet, Excel-based tool designed to assist you in collecting the data needed to complete the PPRs. Probably most of you, maybe you are new grantees. If you've not had a grant before, that means you may not have worked with me before, and I'm sorry about that. But anyway, I'm going to turn it back to Nicole, and I hope you have a great session and learn a lot about the tool. Thank you.
Thanks, Gerald. Today we'll be using the Teams Live platform. Attendees are in listen-only mode, so you will not be able to unmute your line to ask a question. Instead, you can send questions via the Q&A on the right side of the screen, as you'll see on the slide. Feel free to send your questions as you have them. You don't need to wait until the end of the presentation. We'll either send you a written response or address your question verbally throughout or at the end of the presentation. Please keep in mind that OCS is offering PPR Office Hours throughout the month of October. If you have any specific questions that come up during this presentation, you can register for an office hour time slot to bring these questions to the sessions. More information on how to register for the office hours will be provided at the end of today's presentation. If you're having any problems using the Q&A box within Teams or you have any technology issues, please send us an email at ocsregistrar@icf.com. In today's presentation, we will discuss the importance and best practices of data collection, the CED website resources for data collection and reporting, the data collection tool, including a demo, and resources and support available in case additional assistance is required. We'll first review the importance and best practices of data collection for community economic development grantees before exploring individual tools. You may remember some of this information from the first webinar, but it's really important as it is the basis and reason for your reporting. All CED grantees are expected to track data on jobs and businesses throughout the course of their projects and report progress through the Performance Progress Report, or PPR. The PPR is due semi-annually, and it is submitted online through the Online Data Collection System, or OLDC. Data collection provides program-level monitoring and analysis, as well as grantee-level monitoring. It also provides you with a way to track your progress over the course of your grant. Specifically, at the program level, this data provides Congress and other stakeholders with quantitative and qualitative evidence demonstrating the value of your CED program, identifies areas where grantees are most successful, and contributes to future decisions on types of projects to fund. At the grantee level, this data keeps program specialists informed about the grantee accomplishments and challenges, and helps program specialists identify grantee support needs. By tracking data throughout the year, you can submit high-quality reports. Although you report twice a year, you should be collecting this data throughout the year. The resources in this presentation, especially the data collection tool, will help you to collect data and submit your PPR on time. For those of you who attended last week's session, we went into a deep dive of the indicators, but here is a reminder of what you are asked to track. Knowing what you will need to track will be helpful during the data collection tool demo later in this presentation. Form A of the PPR consists of 30 indicators, which are broken into 4 categories: businesses created or expanded, positions created, employees employed in those positions, and funds leveraged. Remember, the objective of the CED program is to create jobs for individuals with low income. Therefore, all indicators, except one, collect data on individuals with low income. For the purposes of collecting and reporting your data for your CED grant, you will need employees to fill positions to create a business. It is like a pyramid. You are building from the bottom up. An employee is counted when they are hired. A position is considered filled when an employee is hired for it. For a business to be considered created or expanded, you must have at least one position filled by at least one employee. For example, if you decide to expand a local sandwich shop, for the purposes of the CED program and reporting, it is not counted as expanded when the decision to expand is made. The business is counted as expanded when a person is hired to fill the new position, such as a sandwich maker or cashier. The pyramid is also a helpful shape because you will never have more positions than employees or more businesses than positions. You will see an example of how these indicators interact when the data collection tool is presented. For these sets of indicators, you will be asked to specify certain characteristics. That's why, while you're only tracking a few things, businesses, positions, employees, and funds, there are 30 indicators in Form A of the PPR. Last week's presentation discussed these indicators in more detail, but this is a helpful way to think of the data as you track it. For businesses, you will be asked to enter whether a business is new or expanded. You will also need to know when it is open or was expanded, and closed if applicable, to know how long it had existed. For positions, you'll need to know when the position was created to track sustainability, the benefits associated with it, and whether it was full-time or part-time. For employees, you are looking at the individuals filling the positions you created. OCS wants to know some characteristics of these employees, including, were they a TANF recipient? Do they qualify as low income? Do they receive job training or certification for the newly created position? What was their hourly starting wage? How long have they worked there? Did they get a promotion? And did they get a raise? For leveraging, you need to specify the source of leverage: government, private, loans, or other. After tracking the data, you will need to submit the PPR. You will use OLDC to submit PPRs semi-annually. The PPR includes quantitative data, qualitative data, and financial data. For grantees who received their grants in 2020, the first time you will report is April 2021. I will now review resources to help you track and submit the PPR. We know that you have received a lot of information in the last month about your CED grants. For new grantees, we know this can be especially overwhelming. The PPR and reporting process, in particular, contain a lot of complex information. The reason we are sharing this information so early in your grant is so you can get started on the right path to understand the data you will need and how to track it in order to make future reporting easier. To help you with this process, we are showing you a variety of web resources that you can refer to throughout your grant. Today, we will highlight the resources on data collection and reporting, but there are resources available on multiple aspects of your grant. You may access the CED website at www.acf.hhs.gov/OCS/programs/CED. So if you end up on the HHS page, you'll navigate to Administration for Children and Families, Office of Community Services, and then find the CED program in the drop-down menu. Once you get there, you'll be on the CED homepage. The first resource we'll cover today is the CED Grantee Toolkit, which it can be accessed on the left-hand menu. The CED Grantee Toolkit is a one-stop shop for you to find all the information you will need to successfully manage your grant and create impactful job creation. The materials are divided into sections. Review each section thoroughly and be sure to refer back to the resources as you need throughout the life of your grant. For any new 2020 grantees, I would especially recommend checking out Getting Started with Your CED Grant. It has a lot of good information about how to view your NGA and some of those starting documents you've received from us. Systems for Grant Administration has information about accessing grant solutions in OLDC, which you will need for reporting. And Data Collection and Performance Progress Reporting will have resources for collecting data and submitting the PPR. So that's the one that we'll concentrate a little bit more on today. The CED Data Collection and Performance Progress Report module contains information about reporting and specifically the PPR, including the dates that you'll need to report and a lot of instructional resources. The resources will come in a lot of different formats. There are PowerPoint slides, videos, website information, documents, and information memoranda. Users can pick and choose for which types of documents work best for them, but the guidance is consistent across the website. It's just presented in a variety of ways to help you. For example, it might be helpful to watch the videos starting out to give you a broad overview, but when you have specific questions, it might be easier to go back into those individual written documents. How to start collecting data for your CED grant is a video about the forms and indicators included in the PPR, and how to begin collecting data for your CED grant. Using the data collection tool is a video demo on the tool, which is similar to what we'll be going over today. And reporting through the OLDC system is a video with a demo on how you'll submit your PPR and SF425 forms through OLDC. I'd recommend watching this video closer to April when you end up reporting, but it does a really good step-by-step of what you'll be seeing when you get into the system. We also have some web page resources, so the PPR forms and instructions, similar to that first video, goes through each of the PPR forms and how you'll submit them into OLDC, but it's done in a written format. This one's also great because it has examples of what those forms will look like when you get into the system. The PPR information page will have additional resources that are specific to the PPR process, and we'll look at that a bit more in a second. And the CED programmatic reporting requirements is the information memoranda that outlines the official requirements for CED for the semi-annual reporting. So to access the PPR information page, you can either access it from this toolkit, or you're also able to access it from the home screen with that left-hand side menu. Once you get to the page, you'll see some additional resources. So we have that PPR forms and instructions page that's also in the toolkit. This is a really, really good tool, and it's filled with a lot of information, which is why we have it in two places. We have the PPR frequently asked questions. We've pulled a document together of questions we've received from grantees over the years that are pretty common regarding both the PPR and OLDC. We've provided answers for those. We have the final PPR submission guidance and examples. You won't need to submit your final PPR until December, the year your grant ends, but that resource is there for when you need it. And then best practices, reminders, and technical assistance for submitting your PPR. This document really addresses common issues we've seen that people run into while they're reporting and questions. It's a one-pager. It's a little bit shorter than the frequently asked questions document, but it's a good place to check in before you're starting reporting. We have a presentation section, which currently has the webinar recording for submitting high-quality PPRs. We'll also be placing the recordings from these sessions in this area as well. Submitting high quality PPRs is the next level of really focusing on the data that goes into your PPR and making sure that you're providing your program specialist the key details and really good information so they get a great picture of what your project looks like. I'd also recommend watching this recording a little bit closer to your reporting date in April. And finally, we have the data collection tool. This is where you'll access it. When you select the link, you'll be taken to this OneDrive page and you'll see the Excel document. Rather than clicking to open the document, we recommend that you download it so you're able to access it on your computer. We've gone over a lot of the resources on the website, but if you think that a resource that would be helpful to you is missing, feel free to send a message in the chat box or send us an email at OCS Registrar so we can consider how best to give you that information. We're always looking to help grantees submit their PPRs and are definitely would be interested in producing more resources if they would help you. That is our website demo for today. Whitney, did we have any questions come in before we move on to our next topic?
We only had one question, and you kind of mentioned it, but maybe it would be a good reminder about if these slides and the recording are going to be available after today's call.
Yes, they will. We'll be posting them to the website, and we'll send out an email when they are posted.
And that was the only question.
Great. All right, let me get back to my slides. So next we'll discuss the data collection tool in more detail. The data collection tool is an Excel-based tool that helps you track the data you will need to fill out Form A of the PPR. As you'll see in this demonstration, the tool is easy to use. Once you enter your data, the tool calculates exactly what you need to report. And although reporting happens twice a year, it is recommended to track it early and regularly, and this tool can help you do that. The data collection tool is designed to make things simpler and easier by streamlining tracking and reporting processes into a single tool. It is not meant to replace existing tracking systems that already enable grantees to fulfill reporting requirements. So if your organization has a tracking tool that you're used to using, absolutely keep using that. This is just another resource you may use and is really tailored to our specific reporting. along those lines, this is not a requirement, but using it is recommended since it really streamlines the process for you. This is a really important point. The data that you submit into, the data that you put into this form will not be automatically submitted to OCS. You must report through OLDC, and we'll give you a little bit more information on that, but this is a really important point. And the data collection tool only deals with Form A. If you remember from last week's presentation, Form A deals with the really quantitative indicators in the PPR. Form B is more qualitative, and Form E is that financial information. So those don't get tracked exactly in the same way. So the data collection tool will only focus on the Form A indicators. As I mentioned before, you can access the data collection tool from the PPR information page of the CED website. Once you click the link and you are directed to the page where the file is stored, right-click the file and select download. If you simply click on the file, you won't be able to use the tool. Once you download it, you should save the file to your computer so that you have it available for each reporting period. You will want to use the same file to record your data for each reporting period throughout the life of your grant. So if you have multiple people working on the tracking or your data person leaves your organization, try to make sure that this file is on a shared drive or is transferred from one person to another, because the tool works best when it's able to collect the data over time and use it in one place rather than restarting the tool for each reporting period. And before we begin the demo, there are some important things to remember. First, you'll need to enable macros, or the Excel document won't work. When you open it for the first time, there'll be a pop-up asking you to enable macros. Just agree and the tool will work. You'll need to fill out all the requested information. The calculations are only as good as the data you put into them. The worksheet is protected, so you cannot inadvertently change or delete any calculation columns. And finally, remember to save your work as often as possible. So now I will pull up the data collection tool and we'll walk through it. I'll go through each tab and I'll show you how to fill it out for your project. So as you can see at the bottom of the screen, there are 7 tabs that you will use in this tool. The tabs were set up so that you'll go in order, since you have to have businesses to have positions and positions to have employees, similar to that pyramid that we looked at earlier. The Start Here tab provides instructions on how to use the tool. You'll notice the light bulb icon in the top right corner of the tool. Click the light bulb for a set of instructions and tips to pop up. These will be really helpful as they'll give you information about entering your data. The light bulb on the Start Here tab will provide more general instructions, but there is also a light bulb icon on each tab with specific information. So when you arrive on a new tab, we recommend clicking the light bulb first and reading the text so you'll know what to do. Before entering data for your grant, you'll have to let the tool know whether you're starting a new grant or continuing reporting on an existing grant. For your first time collecting data for the first period of your new 2020 grant, you will select Start a New Grant. By selecting Start a New Grant, you will prompt the new grant window to open. Selecting this option will also prompt the tool to begin calculating the first reporting period, which is from October 1st, 2020 to March 31st, 2021 for your new 2020 grant. You will enter specifics about your grant, the start date, the name of the project, and your grant number. Enter this information and select OK, and the data collection tool will be ready for you to begin entering data for October 2020 through March 2021 reporting period. The correct reporting period will not be an option until you pick your Start a New Grant. So when you're reporting for the first time in April 2021 for your 2020 grant, you'll select the Start a New Grant option. But as you continue to report, you will do so through the Continue an Existing Grant option. This is because you will use the same data collection tool file throughout the life of your grant. It is very important to select the correct option on this tab, because if you are continuing with an existing grant, but accidentally select Start a New Grant, your data will be overwritten. A warning message will appear to let you know you will remove your data if you select the Start a New Grant option. So pay attention to the message and make sure you select the right option. Before selecting the Continue with an Existing Grant button, you'll select the radio button next to the correct reporting period and provide the correct year from the dropdown. This is an important step, so you want to make sure you select the correct reporting period. Once you submit your PPR in April, the next time you will report will be for the April 2021 to September 2021 reporting period, so you'll select that option when it becomes available. Tab 2, Businesses, is where you will keep track of all the businesses you help create or expand using CED funds. Notice at the top of this tab, you can easily identify the grant number and the project name. It also lists the current reporting period. Pay special attention to this to ensure you are reporting for the correct reporting period. And if you have more than one CED grant, you'll need to use different files for each of those grants because you'll be tracking their progress separately. So if you are working on data for more than one grant, double check that you're in the right grant file. If you are wondering about what businesses to include here, first think about what jobs you are saying you created with CED funds. All of these jobs had to be part of a business. You need to make sure that all of the businesses are listed here. And don't forget to save often as you update the tool. So in this first column, you will enter the name of the business. For our example today, we have Bob's Barber Shop, Lisa's Sandwich Shop, and Mike's Flower Shop. Next, you'll enter the date that the business was opened, or after selecting the business name, then you will use the drop-down to select whether the business is new or if it was expanded from another business. This column is great because it just gives you two options. You don't even have to type in created or expanded. Then you will enter the date that the business opened or expanded. The creation or expansion date for a business will be the same as the date the first position is created, and the same as the date an employee is first hired into that position. The closing date should only be entered when the business is no longer open, nor has any employees in the positions created. So for today, we just have one business that we're going to have as a closed example. Remember, if you are providing a loan to help a new business open, you need to set up an agreement with your project partner to ensure that in exchange for the funding you're providing them, you get the necessary information you need in order to track your aggregate project data and report it back to OCS. For those working with microenterprises or self-employment, each microenterprise should be considered a business. For revolving loan funds, any business that you or project helped create through that revolving loan fund should be counted as a business created. And any existing business that used funds from the revolving loan fund to expand should be counted as a business expanded. To help avoid data entry error and ensure the accuracy of the information, safeguards are built into this tool. As you are entering data into the tool, it will alert you if information is missing. If you do not enter data into a required field, the cell where the data needs to be entered will be highlighted in yellow. And the data validation error section will indicate the information you need to add. For instance, if I enter the name of my business, but no other required information, the tool lets me know I must enter whether the business was created or expanded, and the date it was created or expanded by highlighting the cells in yellow and providing an explanation in the data validations section. So in this example, I had both the created and expanded or the date section in yellow, and I had the data validation error that I needed to fill out if it was created or expanded. Once I did, this validation error changed to let me know that the date needed to be updated. So this is really helpful. I mean, it's a really bright color, so it'll be really easy for you to see if anything's missing. But because this information is so vital for the calculations, it's really helpful that the tool points out if there's any errors.
Nicole, we just got one question. We might want to go back to the Start tab for.
Yeah.
The question is the updated form on the website, the one I downloaded, ends in 2019?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So it is updated. What you'll need to do is go to the Start a New Grant. And once you put your new grant in for the date, so for this example, 2020, and press OK, that's when that 2020 and 2021 years will populate. So you first have to pick your new grant to get the date in there, and then the reporting periods will be updated in the dropdown. If for some reason that doesn't happen, when you do that, please send us an email at OCS Registrar and we'll help you troubleshoot that. Did we get any other questions, Whitney?
We got one more. What should I do if I'm a new grantee and I haven't been using the data collection tool, but I want to start?
You are welcome to start at any time. I think one of the great things about being a new or even newer grantee is that you haven't had that many reporting periods. Just start reporting from your first reporting period to get that information in there. We're not too far into the grants yet, so it'll be easy to put that information in. Do you have anything to add, Whitney?
Yeah, in addition to that, I would just say if you want some more information on the tool, to contact us at the OCS Registrar inbox after we're done walking through today if you have any additional questions, and we can answer those specific to your project.
Yep, and just to go off of that, if you started working with the tool and you ran into a question, it would definitely be great to sign up for one of those office hours and we can screen share and go through that. And if for some reason the 2 office hour times don't work for you, we also, like Whitney said, email us at OCS Registrar and we can walk through any issues that pop up.
Yep, and that's the last question we have right now.
Great. So along with that data validation error, the tool will also alert you when the information you entered in the cell is invalid. So let's say your project opened a barber shop and in the business tab, you indicated that the business was created on October 15th, 2020. And then you move to the positions tab and enter the information on the position created in that barber shop, but you say it was created on October 1st. You're going to get an error because the position cannot be created before the business, and it even pulls that date that you gave the start business. So typing the 1st instead of the 15th is a really easy mistake to make. You just missed a digit, but now you're aware that something's off in your data and you're able to fix it really quickly. So I'm going to move this back to the 15th. So since this position cannot be created prior to a business start date, the tool alerts you and explains why that you're getting that data validation error. That's what I also really like about this tool, is that it's not just, highlighting or putting in red that there is an issue. It's telling you exactly what that issue is and how you need to fix it. And many of these validations might seem obvious, but if you're entering a lot of data, it's really easy to miss something or have a quick typo, and the tool is designed to flag any of these issues so you can correct them before they go into your calculations. Any questions, Whitney? I know we just answered a couple.
Yes, we had a little bit of a follow-up on the first question. So the question is, what if I'm not a new grantee and I've already reported on multiple reporting periods? And for those returning grantees that I've reported before and have not used the data collection tool but are interested in starting, definitely reach out to us at the OCS Registrar at icf.com inbox, and we can help walk you through how to populate some of your older data to get you up to speed to start reporting using the tool in the future. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Nicole, but I think for those of you that are not really sure where to start, whether you're a new or returning grantee, definitely reach out to us and we can walk you through that.
Yep, I agree with all that. So in tab 3, that's our positions tab. That's where you'll track all of your data on the positions that you created. The first column will identify the business the position is associated with. There is a drop-down menu. where you'll pick the name of the business, and this menu will continue to auto-populate as you enter new businesses into the previous tab. In the second tab, you'll enter the name or the title of the position. To ensure that you can differentiate between similar positions, we recommend that the positions with the same title and the same business, you add a letter to the end. For example, a barbershop that you help start, you could enter Barber A and Barber B. We recommend using letters as opposed to numbers, since numbers sometimes refer to different steps or grades designated within higher positions. For example, Barber 1 and Barber 2 might have different responsibilities and job descriptions. You'll also want to differentiate between similar positions in different businesses. For example, if you have 2 restaurants, you're going to have waiters at both restaurants. You want to make sure the person being hired is attributed to the right position at the right restaurant. So you may have Applebee's waiter A and diner waiter A, and knowing which position is which will be very important in the next tab with your employee information. In this example, I have cashiers both at the barber shop and at the sandwich shop, and so I just differentiated between sandwich cashier and barber cashier. And in the third column, you will enter the creation date and, if applicable, the end date. If the business closes, the position must close as well. So Mike's Flower Shop in the business tab closed on the 31st, and so these positions also closed on the 31st. In the next set of columns, you will enter information about benefits associated with the position. For any of the listed benefits, enter Y in the cell if that benefit applies, and if it does not, you can just leave the cell blank. In the last column, you will identify whether the position is full-time or part-time. Select either FT or PT from the drop-down menu. Remember, all but one of the data elements in the PPR are related to full-time jobs. It is important to note that the same position might be held by a number of different individuals over time. While it would be great if each position was created and filled by one individual over the life of your grant, the reality is that individuals will cycle in and out of the positions over time. So you'll need to ensure you record that, which is what we'll do on the Employees tab. Tab 4 is where you will keep track of the employees hired into positions that you've helped create. The first column is where the businesses will populate, and the second column is where you will select the position. One thing I think that's really helpful about this tool is that so many of these have drop-down elements. So if I select Bob's Barber Shop and then I move to position, it will only give me the position options that I have connected with Bob's Barber Shop, rather than all the positions before, which is just helpful to keep track of things, to make sure you don't have a little spelling error that somehow messes up the data later down the line. It really builds off of itself, which is really helpful when tracking this data, especially for grants that are supporting a lot of businesses. In the third column, you'll enter the employee's name or unique identification. This information will be kept internally. Names and ID numbers will not be submitted to OCS. As I mentioned earlier, many people may fill a position over time, but only one person can be employed in each position at a given time. In some cases, a new employee may be replacing a former employee in the existing position. This update is made here in the Employee tab. However, in other cases, a new employee may be filling a new position. If that is the case, make sure that there is a position name for them that you have entered in the Positions tab. So Bob's Barber Shop gives us a really good example of this. Barber A is filled by employee number 1, and Barber B, which is an entirely different position, is being held by employee 2. And in contrast, Barber Cashier was held by employee 3 from the 16th to the 30th, but after employee 3 left, employee 4 took over that position. So although there are 4 employees listed connected to Bob's Barber Shop, they're only filling 3 positions at this time. The next 2 columns are the start and the end dates for the individuals employed. And these are important because the PPR asks for data on how long each employee has been employed in that position. The next set of fields will ask you to enter are the following: if the employee received training with CED funds, if they are a TANF recipient, if they qualify as having low income, and if they received a raise or a promotion. For all these cells, enter Y if it applies, and leave them blank if they do not apply. The next column is for documenting a starting hourly wage. Keep in mind that the wage you're entering is just the starting one, and it shouldn't be changed even if the person gets a raise down the road. You should enter this amount in dollars and cents. For example, if the starting wage is $11.50 per hour, you should enter 11.50. For micro enterprise or self-employment, you may not have a firm calculation on the wage, so you should just leave it blank. Do not enter 0 because that will read in the system as a $0 starting wage. Whitney, did we get any questions about either of these tabs or anything else?
Yes, we have a couple of good questions in the chat. So the first one is, what about the situation when your jobs created also include jobs retained, meaning they actually were created before the business expanded? And for those situations, for the purpose of the CED program, jobs counted in the PPR must be new jobs that were created through CED funds. Jobs that were already created through non-CED funded means cannot be counted as new jobs in the PPR. And if you ever have any questions about whether a job or a business can be counted or not, that's definitely one that you can discuss with your program specialists. And you'll want to discuss that before you start entering jobs that you're not sure about into the tool. The second question, Nicole, is this designed to be a working document so we can add information for a specific job or company as we get it?
Yes, absolutely. You'll just save the document on your computer and then you are able to open it whenever you want as you need. I think that's why one of the reasons I think this tool is so helpful is because it's really easy to just pull up on your computer to maybe even have saved on your desktop, especially if you're working with lots of partners who might be sending you different information at different times. So you can have it all collected rather than trying to go back in and out of OLDC. That just takes a few more steps, but just having this tool ready and available is easy to access and can always be updated as needed.
And the last question is about jobs that are open but have yet to be filled. So what I think this question is asking is if you can report on a job that is open, meaning that a business is open and you have a job that you know is going to be filled by an employee. But keep in mind, for the purpose of the PPR, a job does not count as a job that you can report on until an individual is filling that job.
Yeah, that's a good explanation.
And those are all the questions we have so far.
Great. Well, keep moving on. We're on tab number 5. I think the tabs get easier from here. Tab 5 is where you'll keep track of all the additional funding you have secured for your project. In the first column, you'll list the name of the organization or the award name. And in the next column, you'll select the source type from the drop-down menu. Your options are government, private, loans, and other. And all loans, regardless of where they came from, should be recorded as loans, whether they're private or through another organization, they'll just count as loans. In the final column is where you will enter the amount, and then each category is mutually exclusive, so you wouldn't report if you got a government loan under loans and government, it would just stay loans. And your CED grant does not count as a funds leveraged. The total amount will not display in this tab, but the entries will be rolled up and reported by source type and grand total, which will be automatically calculated in the next tab. Tab 6 is data for Form A. The information on this tab is what you need in order to fill out the PPR Form A online. What you'll see here looks really similar to what you'll see when you enter OLDC. For the information to calculate properly, it is a good practice to return to the Start Here tab and to confirm you've selected the correct reporting period from the Start menu. It is critical that you selected the correct reporting period dates because many of the calculations are based on the date for which you are reporting. Tab 6 will calculate based on the information you entered in previous tabs. For example, the data collection tool calculates the total number of new businesses created, and it calculates the number of businesses created that have been created for at least 12 months. The data collection tool calculates this based on the creation or expansion date and the end date you entered in tab 2, the business tab. And that's one of the reasons why having the correct reporting period is necessary, so that it can make those calculations as it's pulling the information. And from this tab, you should enter the numbers you see here directly into the corresponding indicator in the online version of Form A of the PPR. An important tip is that you should click Finalize Your Records only after you have submitted your forms online and you're sure that you're not making any additional changes to that number. And you'll know that you'll have no more changes to make once your program specialist approves your PPR. This button will populate your records tab so that you can keep track of what you've submitted over time. It is very important to note that just because you have selected the reporting period on this tool and clicked to finalize your records button does not mean that your forms have been submitted to OCS. You will need to enter the numbers you see here into OLDC. This tool is really for your records only. Once you enter the data from the data collection tool into OLDC and your report is submitted and accepted by your program specialist, then you'll want to go ahead and finalize your records in the data collection tool. So the order that we strongly suggest that you work on when you're collecting data throughout your grant is that throughout the 6-month grant period, you're entering the data in this tool, updating as you get more information as you need it. And then in April and October, when the reports are due, make sure your data is correct and complete the data collection tool with any additional information, but don't finalize the records yet. Then you'll enter the data from this tab into OLDC. And after your PPR is submitted and accepted, you'll come back to the tool, check your totals to make sure that they match your OLDC approved data. If your program specialist asks you to correct something in your PPR, make sure you update it in the data collection tool, and then you'll click Finalize Your Records. Save your workbook. Again, just always save it. Keep saving it. As you add on the existing information, the tool will continue to calculate everything you need for Form A moving forward. For every reporting period, your data will already be in there, and all you'll need to do is select the new reporting period on the Start Here tab. You'll repeat this cycle for each reporting period. This should make the process of reporting a lot easier because you're updating your records on a regular basis and you won't have to go in and try to back count everything that happened in the last 6 months. When it comes time to submit your next PPR, all of that data will already be in your workbook, which means that all you'll have to do is copy the numbers into the online system. If you've kept your records up to date, it should be a very quick process. Tab 7, your Records tab, will automatically populate once you select Finalize Your Records button on the previous tab. Again, we recommend not doing this until your data is officially approved in OLDC. The tool is designed for you to use the same workbook continuously from reporting period to reporting period. Each new round of data will be displayed in a new column on the Records tab. You will need to keep adding and updating as you go. You don't have to worry about tracking the numbers as they were previously calculated for you because they will already be documented in this tab. You might find this useful for when you are writing the qualitative sections of your PPR, or if you ever have to refer back to what you submitted in a previous reporting period. When you're looking at your PPRs in OLDC, you're really just seeing the snapshot from that specific PPR. So this Records tab is the best place to watch how your data has changed over time. And with that, that is the end of my demo on the data collection tool. Whitney, did we get any additional questions?
Nope.
Great. Finish this up with a little bit more information. We would like to reiterate that entering your data into the data collection tool is separate from submitting your PPR in OLDC. The table on this slide outlines the key differences between the tool and the PPR. The data collection tool is an optional but very useful tool for gathering the data for Form A of the PPR. The data collection tool is an Excel-based file used for data collection purposes. Finalizing the tool does not mean you have completed your reporting requirements. It just puts your data in a PPR-ready format to make reporting easier. And as noted earlier, the PPR is a mandatory report that you will submit through OLDC every April and October. In addition to the data for Form A, you collect with the data collection tool. The PPR also has Form B and E, so you will need to provide additional narrative information come reporting time. In the next few minutes, we'll answer questions from the Q&A box, so feel free to submit any additional questions you may have. This session was an overview of the materials that can help you. If you are new to the PPR, this can be a lot of information at once. If you run into any specific questions, here are additional resources to help you. If you have any questions as you work on your data collection or PPR, you may contact your program specialist or the OCS registrar, as each provide different assistance. Contact your program specialist for general grant assistance and guidance. They can provide resources and help you make sense of any issues. Please note that Grant Solutions is the primary communication tool for your grant. If there is a change in your project design, contact your program specialist directly prior to documenting it in your PPR. So if you experience any major challenges or changes, the first time that your program specialist is hearing about it should not be in the PPR. You should feel free to give them an email or a call, leave them a note in Grant Solutions and contact them beforehand. The PPR is only submitted twice a year and you don't need to wait 6 months to tell your program specialist about a big change. Feel free to reach out to them anytime as you're continuing to work on your projects and collect the data. The OCS registrar can help you with more technical issues such as accessing OLDC, fixing errors, and officially submitting your report. And please note that for new grantees, we received a question in the inbox about not being able to connect to OLDC and receiving an error that said user not mapped. We are working with the help desk to figure out next steps, and we'll send you an email soon with how to fix the issue. But as a reminder, you will not need to report until April 2021. This slide provides the website resources we went over today. There's the Grantee Toolkit, the PPR information page, and the data collection tool. And you'll be able to access all of these through the CED website. If you're looking for something and you can't find it in the future, or you're thinking, I think they mentioned a tool or a resource that had that, feel free to email us at OCS Registrar and we'll be able to help you locate it. And as I mentioned before, you can have your specific questions related to the PPR, OLDC, and data collection answered in an informal small group format as part of our PPR Office Hours. Our final 2 sessions are coming up on Friday and Monday, but we also anticipate having office hours closer to that April reporting period. Now we just have a few more minutes for any other questions that may have come through.
So we do have one more question, Nicole.
Yep.
If we use the data collection tool, are we required to submit the Excel file to OCS?
You are not. The data collection tool is for your internal records and tracking, but it is helpful to have in case your program specialist has a question about one of your indicators. You can go back to that tool with them and look through and see and maybe see where that calculation came from. One thing to note is we did talk about there being employee identifiers in the data collection tool. And I know that with privacy, some of that information you would not want to submit to OCS, and that's important to know that you don't need to submit that tool. And different organizations will use different identifiers for their employees. That's one reason that you may want to use an employee identification number or some kind of system that doesn't use their name.
And we have one more, and this will probably be the last one we have time for. Please confirm, if we use the data collection tool, we still need to complete the PPR forms that are embedded in the online system.
Correct. Because this Excel tool is just saved to your computer, there'd be no way that OCS would have access to it. All formal reporting must be done through OLDC. On the website right now, we have a few videos that give you a really detailed description and demonstration of how to actually report through OLDC. And we will also provide more information for new grantees and new staff in April when we get closer about the system. If you are a grantee that needs to report now and you have questions about OLDC, feel free to email us and we can help walk you through that process.
And one more, who do I contact to change permissions in OLDC and Grant Solutions?
The OCS registrar. Email us your Grant Solutions username, your grant number, and what you need to change in the system, and we'll help you with that process.
And we have one more. For the positions created, do we need to put them as different positions? For example, do we need to do Barber A and Barber B, or can we just use Barber for different employees?
I would recommend using Barber A and Barber B. Those don't really have to be different within your organization, but in terms of tracking the positions that you are creating, I think it's helpful to add that extra bit of an indicator. So when you are actually in the drop-down menus of employees, I think it'd be confusing if you had Barber, Barber, Barber listed multiple times without some type of indicator. I think that's where it could get a little bit confusing about which employees are filling which position. If A and B doesn't help your organization, but maybe a different system does, absolutely use that. Like we said, this is internal and it's getting counted. OCS and the OLDC PPR will never see these specific terms. This is just really for your records. What you're ultimately populating at the end is this actual to date column. That's just the calculations. So I would recommend making it as specific as you need for the way that your organization needs to track the data.
Yep, I agree. So those are all the questions that we have right now. We actually have a follow-up on that. I know we're at time, but just one last question. And if you want to get credit for creating 2 positions. So this is basically kind of just reiterating what Nicole said. You want to differentiate it between A and B because those are 2 separate jobs that you want to get credit for, and adding the A and B or whatever you want to differentiate them by also allows you to track the number of employees that are filling that position.
Yep, I agree. And if you have a specific question that's related to your business, I know that the example we gave today were very straightforward, and obviously businesses can be a lot more complicated than that. That's absolutely when you can feel free to reach out to your program specialist, or if it's a question about the actual how to set it up in the tool, OCS registrar. We are always here to help you, and we hope that today's presentation is just the first step of your data collection process and understanding, and we will be very happy to help you with the rest of it. And I think with that, we will let you have a great rest of your day, and thank you all so much for joining us.